Beverly Hill, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and you are the president of Gendercide Awareness Project.
That's right, Joanna, and thank you for having me here.
I would love for you to share with me what exactly is gendercide.
Gendercide refers to the elimination of females in certain parts of the world through selective abortion, infanticide, gross neglect, and for older women, lack of access to food and shelter.
So we're talking about deaths. How many deaths are we talking about?
Well, the United Nations Population Fund just revised their estimates, and the number that they produced is 117 million women who are demographically missing. That's a huge number. That is more than all the deaths in World War I and World War II combined. It is more than all the genocides in the 20th century. The number of deaths generated through gendercide is like wiping out the population of Mexico. That's how many women are missing.
That's an incredible amount. In what countries is gendercide most prevalent?
Well, in absolute numbers, it would be the world's most populous countries, and that would be China and India. Gendercide affects women of all ages. We are losing untold numbers of females before birth to selective abortion. It has now displaced infanticide as the primary way of getting rid of unwanted girls. In the 0 to 5 age category, childhood mortality in these countries is much, much higher for girls than for boys. In China, for example, mortality is 42% higher for girls than for boys. In Pakistan, it's 66% higher. It's important to remember that in these traditional societies, childbearing starts at a very early age. And yes, these are poor countries, but they do have medical resources. But medical resources are not devoted to maternal care. And as a result of this, we lose 275,000 women in childbirth and childbirth complications every single year. Nearly all of those deaths are preventable. A surgical intervention could save almost all of those women. And it is doable. Sri Lanka, for example, is a very, very poor country. But a number of years ago, they started making maternal health care free, and now they have reduced their maternal death rates to the point that they're very close to developed countries. And then the other age group that is very, very vulnerable is older women. As you know, in these societies, wealth is channeled through the men in the society, wealth and property. And older women, especially widows, will find themselves with no money, no property that they can call their own, and they become dependent on the goodwill of some other family member to take care of them. And because families are poor, that goodwill is not there, and these women are just cast out to beg.
Oh, why are these girls so unwanted? Why would they not want to have female babies?
Well, there are two primary reasons. The first one is that in a traditional society, there's very little Social Security or none for older people, and so they look to their sons to provide for them in their old age. They don't look to their daughters because daughters will typically marry outside their villages. And rather than taking care of their own parents in old age, daughters will take care of their husband's parents. The second reason is that it's very expensive to marry a daughter. In India, for example, the cost of a wedding and the dowry that generally goes with the bride can add up to several years of a family's income.
What happens to societies when the men greatly outnumber the women?
It's no coincidence that the areas in Asia where sex trafficking is the very worst are the areas where the gender ratios, the sex ratios, are most skewed. For example, the northwest provinces of India have the most skewed sex ratios in the world. And there is a terrible problem of trafficking girls in from Nepal. These girls are so young. They're 12, 13 years old. And they are sold or kidnapped or tricked into prostitution. They will enter a brothel against their will, of course, when they're 12 or 13, and they probably will not step outside ever in their lives until they leave because they've died of AIDS before reaching the age of 30. The police do not crack down on this. In fact, quite often they are in collusion with the brothel owners. They frequent the brothels and they demand protection money from the owners. So even if a girl could escape and run away, there's nowhere for her to go. So it's really a death sentence for these girls. In addition, there is an active traffic in brides. Brides are sold on a sort of a black market, and once married, they are in a relationship that is indistinguishable from slavery with their husbands. Secondly, there is an increase in the maternal death rate. Now, the chain of cause and effect there is not obvious, so let me explain. The men outnumber the women, and so for men of marriageable age, let's say 18 to 30, all the women in that age bracket are taken. So those men look to younger women. And the more skewed the sex ratio is, the younger and younger they have to look to find brides. So the result is that girls are married very, very young, sometimes even before they reach puberty. They stop their schooling, if there was any. They never learn trades or have a job. And as soon as they can have children, they are pressed into childbearing by their older husbands who are eager for children and by their in-laws. So they start having children at very, very early ages, long before their bodies are fully developed and ready to bear children. And the result is that you see dramatic increases in rates of maternal death. Lastly, there are men who will never have brides. And they tend to be the low-income earners from the lower classes because they don't compete as successfully for brides. And these surplus males, young males, become an underclass of drifting, low-paid workers. They tend to form bands and gangs. There are very high rates of crime, vice, and violence. This underclass of unassimilated men is like kindling for social turmoil. If there's an economic contraction and the work disappears, this is the first group of people who's going to be rioting in the streets. So overall, a healthy sex ratio is a very, very good thing for a society. It keeps a society stable and it makes it a more desirable place to live.
This seems to be an oppressive and sad existence for these young women and girls. Has there been an official response to this effect in these countries?
In certain countries, yes. China and India are very much aware of the dangers of a skewed sex ratio, and the officials, the governments, are working actively to try to correct things. In both of those countries, there have been billboard campaigns to persuade young couples to keep their daughters. In both countries, government officials have even gone so far as to offer small monetary rewards to couples who keep their children. But unfortunately, these top-down measures aren't having much effect. What seems to be more effective are bottom-up measures, grassroots organizations that enhance the standing of women in communities by educating them, giving them skills so that they can earn money, gain some respect with their husbands, within their families, within their communities. Microfinance has the same effect. If women are given tiny loans, either of cash or sometimes of seeds or goats that they can breed, they can start their own little businesses, bring income into the family, gain a say in what goes on, and gain stature within their own communities. Organizations that provide maternal and reproductive health care for women help enormously, because a woman cannot get ahead if she's having a baby every year. Women need to be able to limit the number of children they have. They need to be able to protect themselves from getting AIDS, and they need to be able to deliver their babies safely. These types of organizations that do this, some of them are indigenous, some of them are Western, tend to be more effective in helping women.
It seems like a large project. What is the Gendercide Awareness Project doing in relationship to this incredible problem?
We have two missions. Our first mission is to raise awareness, and we are doing that by collecting baby booties. We're collecting 11,700 pairs of baby booties.
That's incredible in itself.
That's from all over the world, handcrafted, and that's one pair for every 10,000 missing women. And we're going to display these artfully in a very, very large art installation, possibly a corridor, possibly something more sculptural, but allow people to appreciate how mind-boggling this number is. 11,700 is a lot of pairs of baby booties.
Yes,
but with each pair representing 10,000 missing women, you gain some sense of the numbers here. The second thing that we're doing is trying to generate action on behalf of women. We are pointing people at the end of our installation to the organizations that do just exactly what I was talking about, that provide education and job training for girls, that offer microloans to women so they can start small businesses, and offer maternal and reproductive health care.
Beverly, what kinds of help do you need, and what kinds of help does the Gendercide Awareness Project need right now?
First of all, and most urgently, we need baby booties. So we would ask anyone who can create any type of baby shoe to please send them to us. They can be knitted, they can be crocheted, they can be silk slippers, moccasins, whatever.
And you want them from all over the world?
All over the world. Secondly, we do need funds. We do need to build this art installation, and we need to pay for it to travel from city to city. And third, we need groups that would be willing to host our installation in their cities and help us with the publicity.
Beverly, how can we get in touch with you, whether it's donating funds or booties, or just to ask questions?
We have a website, gendap.org, gendap being short for Gendercide Awareness Project. So gendap.org. If you go there, you can see how to donate booties or funds or help us with the venue.
Well, thank you, Beverly, for making us aware of this project, and I thank you for being the founder, one of the founders of the Gendercide Awareness Project. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Joanna, thank you, and thank you so much for your time and your interest in our project.
The best to you.
Thank you.